candy seller finds a photo album. The same day, he sees the man from the photos on local TV, leading to a connection that neither expected. Alaric had always felt a strange pull towards the attic of his grandmother's old house. It was a place of forgotten memories, enveloped in dust and shadows. Today, as he climbed the rickety stairs, he felt a tingle of anticipation. What could he find among the cobwebs and old boxes? The air was thick with the scent of age, and Alaric's heart raced as he pushed open the door. His eyes landed on a weathered photo album, its cover faded and worn. Curiosity sparked within him, and he reached out, brushing away layers of dust. As he opened the album, the scent of old paper filled his lungs, and he was immediately transported into another world. Each page revealed a story, a captured moment frozen in time. A smile broke across his face as he saw a couple laughing, their faces bright with joy. Beside them, a child played, carefree and full of life. Yet, as he looked at these images, a wave of sadness washed over him. Alaric's own life felt starkly different. He often spent his days alone, wandering the streets of New Orleans, his presence barely noticed by those around him. He closed his eyes for a moment, wishing for a connection like that. Who were these people? What stories had they lived? The questions hung in the air, unanswered and heavy. As he flipped through the pages, Alaric's heart ached with longing. The laughter and warmth radiating from the photographs stood in stark contrast to his solitary existence. He wondered how these strangers had managed to fill their lives with such vibrancy while he felt invisible. "Why can't I have that?" he whispered to himself, the words echoing in the quiet attic. The couple in the photos seemed so alive, their love palpable through the years. Alaric found himself imagining their lives, picturing the places they visited, the friends they shared meals with, and the stories they told. He could almost hear their laughter mingling with the music of the streets below. What did it feel like to be them? A flicker of movement outside the attic window caught his attention, and he turned to look. The vibrant colors of a sunset spilled into the room, casting a warm glow on the pages of the album. He glanced back at the photos, feeling an unexpected connection to the past. Maybe I could find something like that, he pondered, the thought igniting a small flame of hope within him. The attic was quiet, save for the distant sounds of the city below. Alaric slipped deeper into the album, studying the faces, the smiles, the moments of joy captured in time. Each image felt like a window into a life he yearned for, but had yet to experience. He traced the outline of the child's face with his finger, feeling an ache in his heart. "What stories do you have?" he wondered aloud, his voice barely a whisper. The realization that he had never created his own narrative weighed heavily on him. He had always been an observer, watching life unfold from the sidelines. "How do I step into my own story?" he asked the emptiness around him, hoping for an answer. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows in the attic, Alaric closed the album with a soft thud. The weight of the images lingered in his mind, each one a reminder of the connections he craved. "I need to find them," he resolved, a sense of determination rising within him. He felt as if the universe was nudging him, urging him to step beyond the shadows of his own life. With one last look at the album, Alaric descended the stairs, his heart pounding with the thrill of possibility. He stepped into the fading light of the evening, ready to seek the connections that had eluded him for so long. Would he have the courage to reach out? Could he transform his loneliness into a vibrant story of his own? The questions lingered in his mind as he ventured into the bustling streets of New Orleans, eager to discover what lay ahead. As Alaric sat in his small, dimly lit living room, the dusty photo album lay open on the coffee table. He gazed at the images, still feeling the weight of the stories hidden within. The joyful faces of the couple and the child seemed to dance in his mind. He thought about the tales he had heard from tourists who visited New Orleans. They spoke of the vibrant culture, the rich history, and the colorful lives of its people. Yet, as he reflected on those stories, Alaric realized that he had never created his own narrative. "Why have I never lived like that?" he whispered to himself, a hint of sadness in his voice. He had always felt like a shadow, watching others live their lives while he remained in the background. That evening, Alaric settled on the couch and turned on the news. The familiar voice of the anchor filled the room. As he absent-mindedly scrolled through his phone, a name caught his attention. Elias. He looked up just in time to see a familiar face on the screen, the man from the photos. Alaric's heart raced as he listened to the report. Elias, a renowned artist in New Orleans, is being honored tonight for his contributions to the community, the anchor announced, her voice full of enthusiasm. His work has inspired many, yet he faces a personal battle. Elias is currently fighting a terminal illness, and he has been estranged from his family. Alaric felt a whirlwind of emotions. A mix of admiration and sorrow washed over him. He had felt a connection to Elias through the photographs, and now it deepened with this revelation. Poor man, he thought, his heart aching for someone he had never met. He has given so much to others, yet he suffers alone. The report continued, detailing Elias's struggles and the family he had lost touch with. Alaric's mind raced with thoughts. How could someone so talented feel so alone, he pondered. He remembered the joy captured in the photos. It felt so distant now, overshadowed by pain and loss. As the newscast ended, Alaric sat in silence, grappling with his emotions. He felt an overwhelming urge to reach out to Elias, to connect with the man whose life seemed intertwined with his own. But fear held him back. What if he intruded on Elias's life? What if he was just a stranger in a world filled with vibrant souls? Should I try to find him? Alaric mumbled to the empty room, his voice barely above a whisper. What if he doesn't want to be found? He paced the small space, running his hands through his hair. A decision tugged at him. I have to try, he finally said, the determination growing within him. The longing for connection, for a narrative of his own, pushed him forward. He could no longer remain a passive observer, watching life unfold from the sidelines. The next day, Alaric decided to visit the local art gallery, where Elias exhibited his work. As he stood outside the gallery, he felt a mix of excitement and fear. What if he doesn't want to talk? He thought, anxiety creeping in. But he took a deep breath, reminding himself of the stories behind the photos. Inside, the gallery buzzed with people. The walls were adorned with Elias's paintings, each one telling a story of its own. Alaric felt a surge of inspiration as he walked through the space, his heart racing with anticipation. He could feel the emotions radiating from each piece, and it was clear that Elias had poured his soul into his art. As he approached a particularly striking painting, Alaric noticed a figure nearby. It was Elias, speaking to a small group of admirers. Alaric's heart skipped a beat. This was his chance. He could finally meet the man whose life had resonated so deeply with him. Gathering his courage, Alaric stepped forward. When Elias finished speaking, Alaric introduced himself, his voice trembling slightly. Hi, I'm Alaric. I saw your story on the news. Your work is incredible. Elias turned, a warm smile spreading across his face. Thank you, Alaric. I appreciate that. It's always nice to hear kind words. I found some photos of you in my grandmother's attic, Alaric stammered, his heart racing. They captured such happy moments. I felt a connection to them. Elias's expression shifted, curiosity sparking in his eyes. Photos? From my past? He asked, his tone both surprised and intrigued. Yes, Alaric replied, feeling the weight of his words. They made me realize how much I've missed out on in life. The two men stood there, the connection between them palpable. Alaric knew this was the beginning of something significant, a chance to explore the depth of their intertwining stories. The day of the exhibition had arrived, and Alaric felt a mix of excitement and anxiety as he stood outside Elias's gallery. The sun was setting, casting a warm glow on the vibrant streets of New Orleans. He could hear laughter and music in the distance, but his heart raced with the weight of what he was about to do. He took a deep breath and pushed open the gallery door, stepping into a world filled with color and emotion. Inside, the atmosphere was electric. People moved from one piece of artwork to another, their voices a soft murmur that blended with the soft jazz playing in the background. Alaric stood still for a moment, absorbing the beauty around him. Each painting seemed to tell a story, capturing moments of joy, sorrow, and everything in between. Yet, among the lively crowd, he felt a sense of isolation. As he walked through the gallery, Alaric spotted a large canvas that depicted a family gathered around a table, sharing a meal and laughter. The colors were bright, and the expressions of joy on their faces struck a chord within him. He felt a pang of longing, wishing for a connection like that in his own life. He whispered to himself, "How do people find such happiness?" Determined to find Elias, Alaric moved deeper into the gallery. He spotted him across the room, talking to a group of admirers. Elias was tall and had a warm smile that lit up his face. Alaric's heart raced as he approached, feeling both excited and terrified. Would Elias understand the bond Alaric felt through the photos? Taking a deep breath, Alaric finally reached Elias. "Excuse me, Elias," he said, his voice slightly shaking. Elias turned, his eyes lighting up with curiosity. "Yes, how can I help you?" I found some old photos of you and your family," Alaric stammered, feeling the weight of his words. "They were in my grandmother's attic. I felt a connection to them, to you." Elias's expression shifted from surprise to intrigue. "Photos? From my past?" He looked thoughtful. "What did they show?" "They showed you and a woman and a little girl playing. You all looked so happy," Alaric explained. I felt connected to your joy, but also to the sadness of being alone." Elias's face softened, and he nodded slowly. "You see, my life has not always been filled with joy. I have lost my family, and those photos remind me of what I had and what I lost." There was a weight in his voice, a burden that Alaric could sense. Alaric wanted to reach out and comfort him. "I'm sorry. I can only imagine how that feels. I often feel alone too, like I'm just watching life go by." Elias looked into Alaric's eyes, and for a moment, they shared an understanding. "It's easy to feel invisible, isn't it? But we all have stories. Sometimes, we just need to share them." Encouraged by Elias's words, Alaric decided to share more. "I never created my own story. I have lived in the shadows, watching others live their lives. I want to change that." Elias smiled with appreciation. "It's never too late to start your own story. Just like art, life is about creating and expressing oneself. What do you want to create?" "I want to connect with people, to find my place in the world," Alaric said earnestly. "I want to feel like I belong." Elias nodded, his eyes reflecting a mix of hope and understanding. "Then take that step. Reach out, make connections, and don't be afraid to show your true self." As Alaric absorbed Elias's words, he felt a shift within himself. Their conversation was no longer just about the past, it was a bridge to the future. Suddenly, the gallery felt less like a place of isolation and more like a canvas on which he could paint his own life. Just then, the door swung open, a gust of wind bringing in laughter and chatter. Alaric turned to see a familiar face, Juliet, Elias's daughter, stepping inside. His heart raced as he recognized the chance for something meaningful to unfold. He sensed that this moment could lead to healing, not just for Elias, but for everyone involved. "Juliet," Alaric called out, excitement bubbling in his voice. "You have to come and talk to your father." Elias looked at Alaric, his eyes wide with surprise. "You think that would be a good idea?" "Yes, I feel like this could be a moment for both of you," Alaric encouraged, feeling the weight of his own longing for connection reflected in their situation. As Juliet approached, the gallery filled with the possibility of reconnection, and Alaric felt a flicker of hope. Together, They stood on the brink of something transformative, ready to embrace the stories that would unfold. As Alaric stood in front of Elias's artwork, lost in thought, the atmosphere of the gallery shifted. The door swung open, and a woman walked in. She was striking, with long hair that danced with each movement. Alaric felt a jolt of recognition. This was Juliet, Elias's daughter. He had seen her in the news report, her face etched with pain and longing. Juliet paused for a moment, scanning the room, her eyes landing on her father. Alaric could see the hesitation in her stance, as if she was both drawn to him and afraid to approach. A tight knot formed in Alaric's stomach. He understood that moment all too well, the push and pull of wanting to connect, yet fearing rejection. "Elias," Alaric said softly, turning to the artist. "I think she's here." Elias looked up, surprise flooding his features. "Juliet," he called out, his voice trembling with a mix of hope and fear. Juliet's gaze darted towards her father, and for a heartbeat, time seemed to stand still. The gallery was filled with the weight of their unspoken words. Alaric felt something shift in the air, a chance for healing. "Dad," Juliet said, her voice barely above a whisper. She took a step forward, then paused again, uncertainty clouding her eyes. "Please, come here," Elias urged, his arms open wide, longing for that connection he had missed for so long. "I've missed you." Juliet took a deep breath, and Alaric watched as she stepped closer, her heart battling with years of hurt. "I didn't know if you wanted to see me," she admitted, tears glistening in her eyes. "Of course I want to see you," Elias replied earnestly. "I've made so many mistakes. I'm so sorry for everything." Alaric felt like an intruder, yet he couldn't look away. This was a moment of truth, a chance for a father and daughter to rebuild what had been broken. "You don't understand how hard it's been for me," Juliet said, her voice rising slightly. "I felt so lost without you." "I know," Elias responded, his voice heavy with regret. "I should have fought harder to be in your life. I was selfish." Tears flowed freely as they stood there, their emotions spilling over. Alaric felt a mix of joy and sadness as he witnessed their reunion. He stepped back slightly, letting them have their moment, but he couldn't shake the feeling that he was part of something beautiful. "Can we start again?" Juliet asked, her voice trembling. "I want to know you. I want to understand." Elias nodded vigorously, his eyes shining with hope. "Yes, I would love that. I want to share everything with you, the good and the bad. You deserve to know me." As they continued to talk, laughter began to mix with the tears. Alaric felt a warmth spread through him, a reminder of the connection he had longed for in his own life. "Tell me about the paintings," Juliet said, looking around the gallery. "What do they mean?" Elias smiled, a hint of pride in his eyes. "Each piece tells a story, some of joy, others of pain, but they all come from my heart, and now you are part of that story." Alaric listened, feeling the bond strengthen between father and daughter. He knew this moment was transformative, not just for them, but for him as well. As they shared stories, Alaric felt a surge of inspiration. "You both have so much to share," he said, breaking into their conversation. "This is beautiful to witness. You should keep talking like this." Juliet turned to Alaric, her expression softening. "Thank you for being here. I didn't expect to see my father today, let alone reconnect." "I just wanted to help," Alaric replied, sincerity in his voice. "It's important to reach out to those we love." As the three of them continued to talk and laugh together, Alaric reflected on how this encounter had changed him. He felt a renewed sense of purpose growing inside him. If Elias and Juliet could find their way back to each other, perhaps he could find his own path to connection. In that moment, surrounded by art and emotion, Alaric made a silent promise to himself. He would seek deeper connections in his own life, inspired by the love he had witnessed that day. After the emotional reunion at the gallery, Alaric felt a spark of change within himself. It was as if the warmth of Elias and Juliet's connection had ignited something that had long been dormant. No longer did he want to remain in the shadows. He needed to step out and embrace the world around him. One sunny afternoon, Alaric stood in front of his small house, looking at the quiet street. He took a deep breath, summoning the courage to take the first step. "I can do this," he whispered to himself. He remembered the laughter of the children he had seen in the park, playing and enjoying life. "I want to be part of that joy." With a heart full of determination, Alaric decided to invite some local children to help him sell his sweets. He had always loved making treats, but he had never shared them with anyone. Now, it felt like the perfect opportunity. He placed a colorful sign outside his house that read, "Sweets for sale, help wanted." By the next day, a few curious children gathered at his doorstep. Their eyes widened in excitement as they saw the bright candies and pastries on the table. "Can we really help?" a girl named Mia asked, her voice filled with eagerness. "Of course, I could use all the help I can get," Alaric replied, smiling. "Let's have some fun while we do this." As the children set up a small stand, laughter filled the air. They worked together, chatting and teasing each other as they sold the sweets to passers-by. Alaric felt a warmth grow in his heart. For the first time in a long while, he felt like he belonged. After a busy afternoon, the children gathered around him, their faces sticky with sugar and bright smiles. "That was amazing," shouted David, a boy with tousled hair. "Can we do this again tomorrow?" "Absolutely," Alaric exclaimed, his heart swelling with joy. "And let's make it even bigger. We can invite more friends." Encouraged by the success of the day, Alaric decided it was time to reconnect with his own family. He pulled out his phone and stared at the contact list. It had been years since he had spoken to his brother, Mark. What would I even say? He wondered aloud. Taking a deep breath, he dialed Mark's number, his hands trembling. After a few rings, a familiar voice answered. "Hello?" "Mark, it's Alaric," he said, his voice shaky. "Alaric, wow, it's been a long time. How are you?" Mark replied, surprise lacing his tone. "I'm good. I've been thinking about family lately," Alaric admitted. "I want to reconnect. Can we meet?" There was a brief pause on the other end. "Yeah, I'd like that. How about this weekend?" "Great, I'll bring some treats," Alaric suggested, a smile creeping onto his face. As the week passed, Alaric felt a mix of excitement and anxiety. He prepared sweets, determined to make the meeting special. On the day of their reunion, he arrived at the cafe where they had agreed to meet. As he waited, he thought about how different his life had become since that day in the gallery. When Mark arrived, Alaric's heart raced. They exchanged awkward greetings, but soon the conversation flowed more easily. "These look delicious," Mark said, taking a piece of candy. "You've really been working hard." "Yeah, I started selling sweets with some kids from the neighborhood," Alaric explained, feeling proud. "It's been fun to connect with them." "That's great to hear," Mark replied, looking genuinely impressed. "I've missed our family gatherings." As they talked, Alaric could sense a change in their relationship. The tentative responses he received felt warm and inviting. They shared stories, laughter, and a few memories of their childhood, creating a bridge that began to mend the years of silence. By the end of their meeting, Alaric felt a sense of hope blooming within him. "Let's not wait so long to do this again," he said, his heart full. "Definitely," Mark agreed. "I'd like that." As Alaric walked home, a sense of belonging washed over him. He realized that the bonds he was forming, both with the children and his family, were the very connections he had longed for. He smiled, knowing that each small step was leading him toward a brighter future filled with love and friendship. Alaric stood at the window of his small kitchen, watching the world outside. The sun shone brightly over the neighborhood, casting a warm glow on the familiar streets of New Orleans. His heart felt lighter than it had in years, filled with hope and a newfound sense of belonging. Yet, he knew that building relationships would not always be easy. He recalled the recent conversations with his family members. They had been tentative, filled with uncertainty. "I just want to know how you're doing," he had said to his sister Clara during their last phone call. Her voice had been hesitant. "I'm okay, Alaric. It's been a while." Despite the challenges, Alaric felt determined to keep reaching out. He decided to organize a small gathering, inviting his new friends from the community and his family. The idea excited him, though he could not shake the nerves that crept in as the day approached. On the day of the gathering, Alaric prepared a simple spread of sweets he had been making for his new friends. He set up tables in his backyard, decorated with colorful tablecloths and flowers he had picked from nearby shops. The laughter of children filled the air as they helped him set everything up. "Look at these," a young boy named Sam exclaimed, holding up a tray of cupcakes. "They smell amazing." "Thanks, Sam. I hope everyone likes them," Alaric replied, smiling. He watched as the children decorated the table with their little hands, feeling a warm glow in his heart. As the time for the gathering approached, Alaric felt a mix of excitement and anxiety. He paced back and forth, glancing at the clock. Would his family come? Would they feel comfortable among his new friends? The questions danced in his mind. When the doorbell rang, Alaric's heart raced. He opened the door to find Clara standing there, her expression cautious but curious. "Hey, Alaric," she said softly, stepping inside. "This looks nice." "Thanks. I wanted us to have a good time together," he replied, gesturing toward the backyard. "Come meet my friends." Clara followed him outside, where the laughter of children and the chatter of adults filled the air. Alaric introduced her to Sam and the other children, who were running around with joy. The atmosphere was lively, and Clara's smile began to widen. "This is great," she said, watching the children play. "I can't believe you've made all these connections." Alaric felt a sense of pride. "It's been different for me. I just wanted to feel like I belonged to something." As more guests arrived, including Elias and Juliet, the gathering blossomed into a beautiful celebration of connection. Alaric felt the tension ease as he witnessed his family and friends mingling. Laughter echoed around him, and he felt a warmth spreading through his chest. "Alaric, can you tell us about the sweets?" Juliet asked, holding a cupcake aloft. "Sure. I started making these because I wanted to share something sweet with everyone," Alaric explained, his voice steady. "It's my way of bringing people together." Elias nodded in agreement. "Food has a magical way of connecting us. It's like sharing a piece of ourselves." As the gathering continued, Alaric took a moment to step back and observe. He saw Clara sharing stories with Juliet, their smiles bright against the backdrop of the setting sun. He noticed the children dancing and laughing, their joy infectious. In that moment, Alaric understood that the connections he had built were not just about him. They were about everyone, weaving their stories together into a rich tapestry of life. Each person had their own history, their own struggles, and their own joys. "Alaric," Clara called, pulling him from his thoughts. "Come join us. We're about to play a game." He walked over, feeling grateful. "What game?" "Hide and seek," Sam shouted, his eyes sparkling with excitement. "All right, I'm in." Alaric laughed, his heart swelling with happiness. As they played, Alaric felt a rush of joy he had not experienced in years. The laughter, the stories, the connections, all of it reminded him of the importance of human relationships. In that moment, he realized that every life story mattered, and every connection was worth celebrating. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with hues of orange and pink, Alaric knew that he had taken significant steps toward a hopeful future. The journey had just begun, but he felt ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. Share this story if you believe that connection and community can light up even the darkest times. Leave a comment about a gathering that brought joy to your life, and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring tales like this one.